Yeah, you're too. I think you're too smart for us. Did you study like social psychology?
You don't get to fucking say that.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is the way you pronounce internecine is a little different from the way I do. But the
yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, what did you study? Social psychology or social philosophy? I mean, it seems like you focused on a lot of things that like have nothing to do with like most tech nerds like can like configure a Kubernetes cluster, but like can't talk about what you're talking about.
On the younger side, so I was seeing shit go down before I started college. So I remember freshman year, before I started university, like a week before uni, I picked up Solzhenitsyn, Gulag Archipelago, and it's wild, dude. If you're reading Solzhenitsyn before you start freshman year of university, it's a very good environment.
You're talking about the Russian, the prisoner?
Yeah, he's amazing. Gulag Archipelago is one of the best books.
Yeah, I read it. I never heard of it until I was in a gulag. A modern one, but still.
Hey, you made it out. That's all that matters.
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. You made it out of the gulag.
Yeah.
I was just joking. You could either be like docile and like get assimilated into the low variance subspace of acceptable ideas, or you can maintain your variance and your pride. But then you should be working out simultaneously and getting jacked, because you're going to have to survive in the woke gulags in 2045. So I was just going to tweet training for the gulag fights.
Or less dramatically, you have to suffer some consequences.
Yeah, I don't know. I think now we're like, Baze and I started this little movement, which is kind of like pushing back against this regulation for AI. A lot of like technocrats and these types of people we've been talking about that like to capture institutions that have top-down control over people or technologies. Those types of people have been trying to like push for regulation or a total de-acceleration or stopping even of research towards AGI out of fear and FUD. And we've been kind of pushing back, and we call it effective acceleration, effective accelerationism. Basically, like, we think like capitalism and like systems where there's kind of emergent functionality and emergent altruism, right, from a network and, microscopic process from which, like economic process from which you have emergent functionality that brings wealth and welfare to everyone, just like any sort of capitalist system or an economy of ideas and so on. Like, we're all for that and maintaining kind of high variance and high throughput of these kind of markets instead of trying to have top-down regulation and interventionism, which we're starting to creep into our matrix multiplications. And so we're pushing back against that. And so anyways, if you have thoughts, Enrique, I don't know how closely you've been keeping track.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy you said all this, because I think that if you keep going on that narrative, you're going to be labeled a terrorist organization.
Oh my god, dude. Well, we made it.
We hate Gary Vaughn. That's what we're talking about. Like, this is... I'm interested. I want to hear why you think that. And Baze, you should re-up the Spectrum post. Or is that Beth? Did you post that? That's like I think like all-timer.
Yeah, we'll post.
Yeah, you just said like
the AI safety continuum.
The
disambiguation. It's so good. It's so good.
I honestly think you like said the most dangerous words you could possibly utter, and I think that sooner or later we're going to have something called GovHub, where all AI repos must be posted. There's absolutely no writing of code that has any neural network, reinforcement learning, any kind of scoring, system that then gives feedback to another layer. It has to be posted on GovHub, and Elizabeth Warren will personally be in charge. It's going to be a new agency. It's going to be like instead of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, it's going to be like the Computer Protection Bureau, something like that. I think that's where we're headed. So, yeah, I think you're swimming against the tide there, bud.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're anticipating.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's like so unrealistic. People are unironically proposing that we have like
limits and the number of parameters of models.
Yeah.
Fucking outrageously funny.
I'm gonna be honest.
Like, who's proposing that?
I mean, this is like EA people. I'm trying to
like.
I feel like I've seen this in like maybe 3 different places. Someone's replies, post on What's Wrong. Yeah, a few other places.
Neural network speed limits.
Yeah, I mean,
this is just like
talk about this in trying to like be like, you know, down to the mechanisms, like in terms of their proposals for regulating AI production. Like, this is something that comes up, like weight caps, price controls, weight control.
just gonna CSET or racks, dude. You know, what are they gonna? I don't know. It's such a Sisyphean effort. It's so stupid. It's gonna happen. We should embrace it.
I think we should. Sorry,
Yes.
quick joke. We should seize the means of back propagation.
Holy shit, I love that. Who's tweeting that? That's a good one.
It's dangerous. Too good.
So what is this? Like this is like an NRX kind of
Seize. We can refine this. Seize the means of prediction. That might be. I don't know.
Alright, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like these people are like way too intellectually impotent to actually execute on this, like putting in a weight cap or anything else.
No,
like,
bro, I'm sorry, but the whole thing with the EA is like putting like a pile of paperwork between you and your whatever, like GCP, like GPU, TPU notebook. Like, they're definitely gonna pull it off. Like,
If you worked in big tech,
if there
like,
continues to be momentum, I feel like it will be just as annoying as nuclear.
you can get totally buried in paperwork, and if you worked in big tech, you know, like anything to do with data, there's like 5,000 forms to fill out.
but this like Carrie dude literally hadn't even thought about like bio X risk until I brought it up like an hour ago. Like, I don't know. I feel like these people are easily distracted by something else.
Well, they fundamentally don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's the biggest problem, and like I guess that's like kind of endemic to the ideologue technocrat who like never read any linear algebra. Like you don't know, you have no fucking clue. You're out of your element, and so like whichever way they try to gate advancement in this area is like it's moot. It's a dead endeavor. That said, it's scary that they have as much buy-in as they do. Like smart people, like provably smart people, buy into their bullshit, and it's kind of infuriating in a lot of ways. But like it's ultimately unstoppable. Like you guys were just talking about like working at big tech, and I think I've probably blown a little bit of my cover by now that I do and have. But like those regs have never once come close to even marginally hampering like the initiatives, like in a way that was like permanent or like not surmountable. In fact, they probably more or less moat, you know, it all ends up becoming a capture, just regulatory capture again, and that's what I think. Like, there's an aspect of this that's it's so Sisyphean. Let them fight, but it'll go nowhere.
So, I mean, to be fair, in big tech, hold up, Archie. Like in big tech, like all the regulations that have been in place and imposed upon them, like there's like 3/4 of the time of like most middle level PMs is like process to deal with like, you know, hedging risk against potential legal repercussions and like internal processes and sign-offs. It's like it's a freaking nightmare. And so it actually just like it kind of like for big tech, it actually helps them have a moat over like startups that try to compete with their products, and they have like the headcount and resources and infrastructure to deal with the regulation, whereas the small players don't. And it's something you hear a lot, but like, you know, once you've been in a startup and then you've been in big tech, like you see the big contrast there. At least for me, like I think like that's why I really like what Enrique's building, like the DeSci platform. It's really inspiring. Like seriously, I think that's something for AI eventually is going to exist. You know, does the compute have to happen on chain? Probably not. But if at least just keeping track of neural networks and people's contributions towards the performance by sharing data and whatnot could happen. You know, anyways, I have some ideas there. I won't disclose all of them, but I think like creating an unkillable decentralized economy for AI development is going to be the final counter to this bullshit. And you know, you could just like secretly mine some AI coins and like either donate your GPU or create neural nets to make some revenue in this token that, hopefully is untraceable. Or if you swap it, you gotta have some OPSEC of how you swap it. But this is where like the whole, DeFi and crypto technology, it was a bubble right now. People are building real shit, and it could have like real potential repercussions to help monetize and incentivize the further development of these technologies that would be otherwise like overregulated. And so, dropping the EOC token. No, just kidding. No. But like I don't know, something like this. Maybe it takes a bunch of schizos on a Friday night to figure it out how to start the most dangerous idea, and then put it on the blockchain so you can't stop it. I don't know.
So remember,
Base. Sorry. Oh. Okay.
I was just gonna quickly jump in here. I think the biggest question is always going to be like, what's the layer from blockchain to usable, right? Like that's the risk vector consistently, no matter what we end up doing here. But I will just to quickly jump in on what you were describing a second ago. Like I think you're exactly right, Beth, and how you're describing like resources able to be moated and capture, but like these things themselves also don't fundamentally alter like different regulations. If you think about GDPR, app tracking transparency, or even the new U.S. omnibus package that looks like it's going to have all sorts of like sensitive data use and all that type of stuff. All these are really asking is like for some marginal degree of identity obfuscation in ways that like don't stop these models from being like really performant. And so like even with what we're seeing being manifest today, and like to your point, like maybe we're protecting against the future, like these things today don't have teeth, and maybe in the future they might, but there's like there's nothing here so far that like a little bit of like differential privacy doesn't solve. And like to the extent that really harms future growth, like I don't know. I mean, I find the opposition kind of toothless, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The big toothless.
What if like you need to register to buy an NVIDIA GPU, and then you have like some sort of like NVIDIA CUDA drivers you got to download and register, otherwise your GPU is a fucking brick.
I mean,
right?
It's just like with global AI. Most research papers are starting to come out of China instead of the U.S. Now we're seeing a shift over the past like 5 or so years. So I mean, China is going to be able to rule with an iron fist whatever they want to do, as long as U.S.
Did we get that citation weighted?
Yeah.
They maybe have the most number of like archive submissions, but they definitely do not have the most like NeurIPS publications. Like Google itself has like most of those.
The change per year, I think it's. I read a research paper for one of my classes back a little bit, but
Daddy She Will Save Us is not a good argument to the Western world shooting itself in the foot. Like
that's the exact issue. There's just an easier way of regulating what's being put in, what's being researched, what's the outcome, and without some sort of platform that's accessible globally, not just for U.S. or the Western world, but all nations, it's going to be difficult to continue advancing at a pace that we are right now.
we'll see.
I want to put something out here which is kind of crazy, but bear with me for a second. So my Wi-Fi is acting up, or I'd shared a picture with you guys.
Actually, wait, sorry, just 1 second. I just need to deal with some of the administration of this space. If you're a speaker and you have something you want to say, raise your hand. And once blockchain is done talking, which will be about 20,000 characters from now, then you can say it. If you don't have something to say, that's cool, but I'm going to kick you off. Nothing personal, but other people have requests. Okay.
I'm only a single character, my friend. Multiple personalities aren't my thing. Okay, that's a bad joke. That's a really bad joke. No, what I was getting at was, so this is a really interesting trend right now to be against some forms of innovation under the guise of AI ethics. And to me, it's rather concerning because if you think about it, right, which innovations have saved the most lives in the course of human history? And it's not even close that synthetic fertilizers saved more lives than anything else, because you don't have babies dropping like fucking flies in the first few months after pregnancy because you have
Like
enough calories
fucking
to sustain
flies.
humanity, right? So how exactly do artificial fertilizers come about? Well, it turns out in World War One, it was believed that Germany would surrender. Because back in this era, chemical explosives used to be mined. So, for example, say you're an Indian and you read about the revolt of 1857. Well, in the revolt of 1857, one of the things the British did is they prioritized taking over saltpeter mines. Saltpeter, KNO3, potassium nitrate, is the prime ingredient in gunpowder, and without it, you could not have any form of organized resistance to British rule. Now let's look at World War One. World War One is artillery trench warfare, and it's believed that Germany does not have the mines to sustain artillery for a sustained period. Well, comes along this fucking guy, this mensch of a human called Fritz Haber, who comes up with a way to create explosives from literal nitrogen, like convert the atmosphere into explosives. And it's the fucking Haber-Bosch process used to this day to manufacture nitrogen-based fertilizers. And for those of you who don't know, nitrogen is important because, carbohydrates are C, O, and H. In case you want a protein, you need to have nitrogen as well. And about 50 to 60% minimum of the nitrogen in the proteins in your body is, put in there because of this process. So the way to think about this is, okay, when people talk about going back in history, they're like, if I was sent back in human history, 10, 20 years, I know when to buy Apple stock, I can become a millionaire, perhaps a billionaire. You go back 200, 300 years, people are like, do I speak the right kind of English? Do I need to learn that? But a bigger question to ask yourself is, say you go back 500 years and you have the technological information you have today. Well, it turns out knowing how to come up with a VLSI circuit means nothing if you cannot refine silicon. Coming up with a way to do Neumann algebra has no meaning if you don't have linear operators. And it has zero fucking significance if you know Maxwell's equations, if you don't have a way to fucking derive that, charge is conserved. The point over here is, there is a similar and harder problem in technology. You do not know which technology nodes are the low-hanging fruit you need to get to the next step of the maze. And any restriction on it whatsoever assumes that you can reliably predict what is a bubble and what isn't. And if there is a person or an algorithm which can tell you what is a bubble and what isn't, then you have to say that there would exist a person or algo which would consistently outperform the market. And since that is not the observed case, I think we should conclude the opposite, which is, we can go for a full fucking breadth first search of fucking human technological progress and let the cards fucking, fall where they may.
Yeah. So like it's
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I maybe I'll summarize. Like, I think Ronald Fisher, Godfather of statistics, had this theorem about the speed at which fitness in a population can change over time, and you need to maintain a certain level of variance, because the speed at which your fitness can improve over time of anything, this applies to literally anything, like any function of fitness of any organism, the speed is kind of proportional to the variance. And so if you have top-down control and it's trying to suppress variance in order to have better control, then the speed of progress literally is hindered, provably, mathematically. And so this is why we're arguing for variance. And I think that summarizes the argument for blockchain. Okay, let's try these new schizos on the stage.
The actual summary of it is AGI doomers have no alpha, literally alpha.
That's right.
Okay, Owen.
So, yeah.
So there's kind of a big pivot. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. What's up?
Yep.
So I'm just curious what you guys think of.
I think we need a big
Facebook.
pivot.
I'm sorry, Meta. Has Zuckerberg completely lost his mind? This whole metaverse thing, or do you think he actually has something?
I think the hydrofoil is a very good business. No, I'm personally bullish on that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Very, I think the thing that he says is, fairly. No. Was that a Palmer thing?
What specifically?
What do you agree with? That it's the last platform.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if that's true or not, but I actually take a little...
It's arbitrarily configurable, right?
Well,
it seems hard to get around that.
Well,
as long as you can make the user experience...
Yeah, exactly.
Smooth.
But even if you abstract that for a second and think about just I'm going to get so much hate for this, which is why I'm going to say it. Like, I actually love the guy. Like, I actually think he's one of the best managers and the best capitalists ever. And, like, he reminds me of Bill Gates in '94, who was also my hero at that time, where everybody hated Bill Gates, and he was, like, the worst guy ever. And, you know, the government tried to take him down and failed. And Zuckerberg's evil empire, man. Like, he's the brilliant evil genius, and I don't think metaverse is like the bee's knees, like you're saying, but I think he's going to execute, and he's going to make revenue's going to keep growing at Facebook, and we're all going to be like, man, this company's worth $2 trillion, and I don't know, I'm just super bullish. Like, I believe in him more than anything else. His track record speaks for itself.